pleasure to have you here today. How are you, first of all?
Fine, everything is fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining. It's a pleasure to have you here. And you are actually the first Italian fintech founders that is sitting with me. Very, very strange, given the fact that I'm Italian. So I wanted to leave you a little bit of space to give you a quick introduction of yourself or of Tundr as a startup, of course.
Yeah. First of all, thank you again, and it's an honor, also responsibility to be here. And quick introduction myself. I'm born and raised in Como. It's a small town near Milan. I'm 28 years old, so I went to uni in Milan, moved to Milan for university, 5 years in Bocconi, and then jump in at work, some experience in consultancy, where I actually felt the need of a welfare solution, no salary, so benefit solution, and so I jumped in the entrepreneurial journey with Tundr, co-founding Tundr. It was 2022, so 3 years ago. And at that time, the main point was the pain that some employees and new generation of workers feel in terms of engagement with their companies. And so, I really, as I said, I saw the experience of someone entering a company and having a like package in terms of salary and also benefits. And at that point, I find some frictions in the way companies can give benefit to the employees. And so at that point, I started Tundr.
Now that's very, very interesting. First of all, I would like to ask you, given the fact that, let's say, Italy has always been recognized as one of the probably the worst places to actually launch a business, given the complexity, the bureaucracy, and everything else. I would like to ask you, how is actually to launch a startup in Italy in 2022, and if the situation that you faced was actually that bad in terms of launching something new.
Yeah, I think it's first of all, it's tough. It's really tough. At that time, I was lucky in a sense, in terms of being very young, so having a room for improvement, but also to make mistake in terms of to learn. Of course, the framework that you describe and that we live in Italy is far it's very distant compared to the European framework in terms of venture capital investment. Also ecosystem. There is a huge bureaucratic ecosystem in Italy. So of course there are some elements on which, by the way, Italy is growing a lot, but there is room for improvement on that. And at that time, what was super interesting, and also we were lucky on that, was a list of elements that make it a little bit easier to start. So it's not something because we were good or because someone is bad in doing business, but first of all, also the momentum of the market in terms of my market, so the non-salary benefit industry was exploding in the sense that especially after COVID, companies should find every day more some policies to attract talents, to retain talents. Also, the needs of talents are changing. There was there were some phenomena Great Resignation, where you can see how talents or how workers find the way they do their job in a different perspective. And in this perspective, the non-salary benefit package, so all these policies that are called welfare in Italy, welfare aziendale, that companies can give to to their employees to make them feel more engaged, are the answer, the key to respond. And so it was a mix of elements. It was some people that believe in us, that also give for also financial perspective, market momentum, and of course a passion, or more than a passion, it was more the need that we experience. Thunder was born from the experience of myself as an employee, and also my co-founders as
Hmm.
employers, that employers should give welfare, employees
Yeah.
should receive welfare, and so we really felt the need and the
Mhm.
pain of the like the kind of traditional market, and that was like the starting point.
And do you see, let's say, you've been saying that the situation was kind of complex in the beginning, but right now it's improving, and I totally agree with that. I see that, for example, the Milan ecosystem is rising a lot. To be honest, we see a lot of new startups, a lot of new VC, for example, also launching. There's more capital, there's more expertise, skills, programs also for new startups. So and there are also other kind of ecosystem in Italy that are growing a lot, like for example Turin. And I wanted to understand: do you think the Italian ecosystem is growing, is improving under that perspective? Do you see the situation changing for the better lately?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. I also wrote my Master of Science thesis
Mm.
on how, which is the delay
Mm.
of the Italian venture capital ecosystem compared to France, Spain, compared to the European ecosystem. Yeah, of course, since we are in delay, we are like growing in a sense more
Yeah.
quickly than the others, but there is so much to do. It's a matter of different aspects. First of all, I felt on myself this aspect that is
Hmm.
academia. So like also universities. Um, Everyone, when we spoke about venture capital ecosystem investments, everyone spoke about VCs and also about the fact that also Italy is attracting more
Yeah.
money in a sense. We have some few but first experience finally of startuppers of second time startuppers like a serial entrepreneur that start to attract money not only from Italian or European investors but also US VCs. But as I was saying, academia is for me a crucial aspect. Like after 5 years in Bocconi, you have usually a clear path
Hmm.
in front of you. You can become a consultant or investment banker, private equity. You can go to the corporates, and at that time, it is 3 to 4 years ago, not 30 to 40 years ago. Um, the startup world was something a little bit,
Smaller.
scary
Yeah. Mm.
in a sense. Yeah, smaller, scary. What are you doing? Like all my friends and colleagues were asking
Why are you doing
you,
that?
are you sure about that? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Things are quite changing, and really there are some people, some students that start
Mm.
to that I see them saying, "I want to become an entrepreneur. I want to have also an experience on scale up of
Yeah.
startup, and maybe after building something from scratch, that is not so common compared to 5 years ago." And in this situation, the ecosystem should also be supported by as I said, academia, by university. And why that? Because in different countries like France, like Spain, there are so many business schools that have the major or the specific master of science on
Hmm.
entrepreneurship. Italy is going in that direction. I was at my master of science welcome
Hmm.
day as a guest, and I saw that for the very first time there was also entrepreneurship,
Mm.
and it was super interesting and also satisfying in a
Yeah.
sense for myself, because it means that also huge business school like Bocconi University are going in that direction. Of course, it's a matter of big
Yeah.
puzzle. So we need academia, we need investments, we need also government support. But I think that there are Italy is setting the right ground to grow in that direction.
Yeah, under this perspective, I always thought that the Italian ecosystem right now is more or less where Paris or France overall was in 2015, 2016. I don't know if you remember at the time, basically there was this period of time where France actually invested a lot of money in startup in building their own ecosystem. And for 5, 7, 10 years in a row, they didn't get anything in exchange because basically the ecosystem was growing. And then suddenly that it was 2018, 2020, 2021, they actually saw the results coming in. I think that we are more or less in the same situation. We started to invest, we started to attract capital. Probably 5 years from now, we will see a very mature ecosystem, to be honest. Obviously, not on the same level of huge ecosystem like the US or the UK, for example, but a strong ecosystem in any way. And I think that this is already ongoing and is already in progress. Also driven by the kind of investment that are coming in more recently. And maybe also talking specifically about investments, you recently raised another round, if I remember correctly. I wanted to ask, how was the experience of raising money in Italy as a very mature startup, I would say right now.
Yeah. Um, Going back to your points, I totally agree with you. It's more a matter of also like seeing the venture capital as a specific asset
Hmm.
class, not a branch of private
Yeah,
equity, and it always require a kind of what's your perspective in terms of medium to long term. We cannot like expect to invest like as a VC in a startup and then make an exit in 2 years, of course. And that's related on what we are seeing. We are a, like 8 year delays compared to the French ecosystem. And my thesis was like delay. The conclusion was that one, and there are also some empirical evidence on that. And so, of course, it's really a matter of switching the
hmm,
perspective, not like a branch of the private equity asset class, but it's completely different, like asset
yeah.
class, the venture capital. And concerning fundraising, it's pretty particular because usually venture capital, of course, look for scalability, growth, investment in
Hmm,
innovation, etc. But what is super important is also, of course, the founders, the team, but also the scalability in terms of the geography. Thunder, from our strategy in the next 12 to 24 months, is an Italian
hmm,
playbook. So, in my opinion, it was crucial to have on board Italian venture
hmm,
capitalists. Why that? Because, in my opinion, if you want to scale, to build in a specific market niche, in this case, it's not like a niche in terms of segment, but it's a niche in terms of geography. So, Italian playbook. And the main point was to having domestic venture capitalists onboarded, and then maybe after 24 months you want to scale at European level, at US level, and you can bring
hmm.
capital from that geography, but not just because it's money is green. Money for me is never green. It's just a matter. I attract that kind of capital because I want also that expertise, that presence, etc. In our experience, it was pretty tough
Hmm.
to raise in Italy, but it was a prerequisite, as I said before. Our seed round was led by 360
Hmm.
Capital, and I was super, first of all, lucky in a sense that I met 360 Capital is an amazing fund with amazing people, and the fund that also invested in Thunder. So after like uh, Beyond
Hmm.
360 was also digitally.
Hmm.
That
Yeah,
is a fund also led by Lucrezia Lucotti. That is tremendous, like a
yeah.
girl, very young,
She's an amazing investor,
in the
absolutely.
sense that yeah, exactly, and she is trying, in my opinion, to bring this kind of shift in terms of making not only more mature
Hmm.
our venture capital ecosystem, but also more
Hmm.
aware, because of course we have to also be kind of realistic in the sense that Italy mm, rarely or never have assisted at, I don't know, 1 billion
Hmm. Yeah.
exit. Okay, of course there was Prima
Hmm.
Assicurazioni some months ago. It was a tremendous success, but it's not so common. So it's just a matter. In my opinion, they're super brilliant investor because they're able to balance the need for innovation and so forth of investment, but not with the um, like hyper grow
Hmm.
in terms of capital need. So I found this this venture capital as the best fit with Thunder because they understood the playbook, they understood also the strategy, of course, they met the team, etc. But then they also buy the
Hmm.
market because, especially my market is like rapidly changing, things are evolving so fast. And so it was like a super nice interaction in a sense. But I think that the best way to understand my experience, how to like who to work with, is a matter of really prerequisite. Are we aligned in terms of how we see the company in 12 months, 24 months? What plan we need to achieve that like that milestone? And that was like very in a sense easy. Then of course you like to build the fundraising
Yeah.
and all the follower investors, but that was like the starting point.
That's that's very interesting. I wanted to follow up on the on a point that you said. So your point is having investors that actually understand the market, understand the idea, that are with strong roots from the kind of market that you're trying to assess. So in this case, Italian investors that understand the Italian thesis of your company at the moment. I was wondering if you are already taking a look at the European markets, because I was recently scouting or studying something very similar in a couple of markets in Europe. And I saw that there are markets right now that are going more or less in the same direction of Italy in terms, for example, for meal tickets, for example, or benefits, stock options, and all of those kind of things that companies are giving to employees. So I was wondering if you are already, taking a look and taking the next steps for the European expansion.
Yeah. That's an amazing question. Why that? Because like it's what we discussed, and the reason I like feel asleep some nights. But like, of course, like Thunder. When I like founded Thunder, I was like looking for a new
Mm.
solution for benefit. Like, and I look at Europe, okay, and I saw
Hmm.
Swile,
Yep.
for example. Swile is like the pioneer in
Yep.
our industry, like the big guys to follow in a sense. They made a tremendous like work in France. Then they also go to LATAM because like for non-salary benefit market there is Brazil,
Yep.
Mexico, France, Italy. So those are the main markets worldwide. And so after a while, and there were born some companies like
Hmm.
Thunder, like also Kobe in Spain, um, that like follow that trends. What I believe is that as of today, why Thunder should be like a domestic player, because we need to become the leader, the champion in this category, in this industry, in this geography, and then working like horizontally, so not only on this, but I think we will discuss later this, but also on different features and modules on which you can build on with an holistic
Hmm.
approach, like a one-stop shop solution. Why that? Because like the idea of going to France, for example, yeah, okay, maybe we can make some little
Hmm.
traction, but it's just very superficial traction. In my opinion, does not make any sense because it's just a matter like more marketing slogan than like a real benefit for the business. And so we will go abroad only once we'll be sure that our like product, our solution is really competitive in the
Hmm.
country that we enter. Today, if I enter, like for example, France, in the shoes of a client, of a French client, I will never choose Thunder because there is like the market standard is exactly
Hmm.
similar in France. There is like a champion, like a provider, a player that is much bigger and that raised 200 million euros. And so it's not a matter of like going there just to
I'm
say
here and
so,
present. Yeah.
but it's, yeah, exactly. It's more a matter of having a real like understanding of the business and which is the impact that your business can bring to a country. And that's why we want like to build an Italian champion today on the fintech space in the wealth market.
That's a very mature argument, to be honest, because it's not just a matter of announce, or PR, for example. It's actually a matter of value proposition that you can bring to the final customer in the end. And that's not that easy, because it's kind of easier to just say, okay, I'm present all over Europe. I have a lot of small flags in an Excel sheet, and it's just easier for me to go to the next VC actually asking for money. So that's actually a very good sign of maturity, to be honest. And yeah, I was wondering, we were talking about the fintech system in Italy. How do you see actually the fintech system in Italy? Because we are probably one of the most traditional countries in Europe under that perspective. We absolutely love cash, for example. We have a strong or at least very traditional banking ecosystem. I was wondering, given the fact that you actually launched a fintech company here, how do you find the fintech ecosystem in Italy, and if you see it improving as the rest of the startup ecosystem?
Yeah. Um, First of all, like with Thunder and with our space, so with the space in which we operate, it's kind of paradox in a
Mhm.
sense because of course, like Italians love
Yeah.
cash, but on the other end, I like work in an industry where companies, let's try to imagine your company gives you like
Mhm.
money through a payment card, so through a fintech, not it's not cash, of course. And so like we are there is like a more
Yeah.
facilitation in the sense of sponsoring, like of providing a fintech solution. But what's my opinion on that? Of course, you're right. Like we're like the more like kind of rigid in a sense ecosystem. I think that the potential is huge.
Mhm.
Small, medium enterprise and a citizen, in a sense, are very digital savvy for me. It's more a matter of find the right angle to put there in the condition to switch to move toward
Mhm.
fintechs. Um, we are in a privileged position in a sense because to give you an example, sometimes we receive a customer support ticket in which the employees that is like a consumer, so is ask a very specific question that is, guys, my welfare is amazing, your solution is amazing, your card is amazing. It's also free
Mhm.
because like the companies pay for my cards, but do you have like a kind of B2C
Mhm.
solution? Like, can I can I put my money on the cards? The answer today is no, because like we are benefited
Mhm.
provider. We work. Our client is the company.
Yeah.
We are our competitors like the other red, the Pellegrini, etc. So we do not make that like job
Mhm.
yet, but you can understand that if you're like vehiculated, so if the vehicle is a company and you find the right angle to target also the consumer, there is like huge like room to grow, to build, and that's that's why for me it's kind of a paradox because, for example, like new bank, the biggest problem for new bank is like the cost of acquisition. How can I like convince Michele to switch from the traditional bank account to my fintech account? And in our situation is a little bit the
Mhm.
opposite. We have companies that communicate, that give, that make education on a solution that is not like fintech as a
Mhm.
core. Of course, it's the solution that is fintech, but like the policy is like no salary benefit, so it's
Yeah.
welfare. And in this way, you can understand that you can gain the trust, and so you can spur the switch of the consumer throughout their companies. And that's where also we are looking because like there is so much space on that.
Mhm. No, that's very interesting to see the kind of approach that you're having to the product itself. Trying to put the user at the center of the argument, at the center of the product itself. And I know that it's not easy to launch a fintech company in Italy. First of all, we have very few example of success, and that is a problem, of course. I was wondering if you are already taking a look at, for example, additional services that are related to benefits and to fintech at the moment, because I can already think about a couple of streams already, but I would love to
Yeah,
hear if you are already considering something else over there.
yeah, yeah. We are like the main point, like, and also the main challenge is understand which one
Mm.
is like the order of
Mm.
priorities, because as I told you, once I get the trust of my clients and then also of my users, because we are B2B
Hmm.
to C, as I told you before, like you're from corporate to consumer, and so you have like a huge platea, huge like a portfolio of services that you can add. We are like a platform business. We are between two third parties in a sense, because there is also merchants. We have companies that buy the services, users that use the services, and merchants that are like included in the
Hmm.
loop because they receive the welfare credits. And so we are looking at that. We're just making some kind of analysis on where and also when. But the main point is that as also on internationalization, our strategy is pretty simple. We want like to be the champion
Mm.
in the geography, in the niche. In the niche, I mean, fringe benefit, flexible benefit. There is also meal voucher,
Hmm.
let's see. But so in the benefit. And then once, since you're a platform business, you're critical mass, you have volume. When you have critical mass and volume, you can go
Yeah.
horizontally. To give you an idea, there is an amazing company in between France and Spain, I don't remember, that makes salary in
Hmm.
advance,
Yep.
for example. And that's like an amazing product, especially with some specific target of corporate population, where they kind of make it easier, make it more accessible to ask the salary in
Hmm.
advance throughout a platform, throughout technology, throughout a fintech solution. And that's kind of adjacent opportunity to us, but it's in the same kind of storytelling. That's
Hmm.
welfare, because welfare is not only I give you, the gift card or the Thunder card, like to just to like raise the purchasing power of the employee, but it's also make it
Hmm.
accessible to I don't know, uh, face a problem. I don't know. I have a problem with my card. I have no money on my bank account, and I can ask the salary in advance. And there is these financial services. There are so many other fintech services. There is also insurance. There is also pension
Hmm.
funds. There is also the integration with public welfare. And the point of contact are like are not only so many, but are super interesting in terms of strategy. The main point is, and it's what we're doing throughout discovery with our clients and with our prospects, to understand which is the best
Mm.
angle.
Uh, I was wondering, how do you decide those kind of things, Because you've been mentioning a lot of very interesting fintech products and products overall, service overall. How do you decide internally on which kind of streams to follow next? So which one is ready for the consumer, which one is maybe too early or the market is not ready. So you've been saying that you are very focused on a market and a niche, a specific niche. So how do you decide which one of them?
Yeah, that's a tough question. That's beating a
Yeah.
tough weather, because um, first of all, we are like obsessed by the
Mhm.
client, as I think all startups in
Yeah.
Italy or wherever. The main point is that we have two clients, because my services is bought by the
Hmm.
companies, usually by the HR, but then the user is not the HR. It's like all the company
Yeah.
population. So it's a matter of like working on two axes, like exploitation and exploration. Exploitation, what does it mean? It means starting from a product, and then we like make any kind of improvement on that product, because we see we have experience that it is
Hmm.
working, as we did in fringe and flexible benefit. So like V1, V2, V3, so continuous iteration to make it even better every day more. And then at the same time, we always, all our team, independently that is product tech, operation, make like allocate part of his time on exploration. Exploration means let's find the way, like the instrument, the solution, the service that will make us successful, not in the next 24 months, but in the next 60
Hmm.
months. And so on that, you have like to have a kind of iterative approach, in the sense that you start on something, and then you can discover that is not what the clients wants, what the user is ready to adopt, and so you have to accept that there is continuous iteration. You
Hmm.
start from A, and then you end up with the C. But of course, it's an equilibrium from the two.
Hmm.
Let's continue to build the trust of my clients and my users, so we can propose new services to them, but still being like kind of flexible, being
Hmm.
ambidextrous in a sense, knowing that these users, these clients can be interested at the at the very first level, but then saying I'm not ready to pay that subscription fee for that services. And so it's more a matter of being super flexible and consider all the elements of on
Mm.
the table.
And do you think that like education of the final user is part of that argument, or are you totally driven by the kind of request, by the demand itself? Because from time to time, mostly in financial services, mostly in traditional countries like Italy, sometimes you need to understand, you need to explain to the final users, which kind of service are you providing, maybe why it's important for them to, I don't know, invest or save or those kind of things. So do you think that that is part of this argument, or you are totally driven by the
It's
other?
Yeah, it's at least a half of the
Mm,
part because like we experience this with welfare. The main problem, and welfare is easier as I
mm.
told you because it's
Yeah.
top down. Michele is my HR, decide to give wealth with Thunder, and I like enjoy the Thunder benefit, and then maybe I'm more like educated to it, and in the next companies I will ask which kind of welfare do
Hmm.
you have, or which kind of provider of welfare do you have, and that's like a clear like picture of how education of user is important. Then for all that kind of let's say horizontal feature or horizontal kind of modules that we were talking before, uh, like also making education bottom up can be like the
Mm.
key. To give you an idea, we have like a very specific kind of feature today that is discount and
Hmm.
promo, where employees can have access to discounts with like a no cost. There is it's not welfare. It's just a kind of engagement
Hmm.
tool. And once we change the user experience and the way they can display it, the kind of conversion ratio, so the number of click, the number of conversion of welfare users that also ask for discounts change.
Mm.
So it's like an equilibrium, as I said before. Of course, there are so many companies. I think about something that is really important for myself. Why that? Because I'm not so like so yeah, competent on that. It's also financial
Mm.
education. You know, there in Italy, I see, and I always have some discussion with some founders that are like kind of growing with their ventures in the financial education ecosystem. And I understand that it's more a matter of find the right angle to communicate, to make education, because then the need is there.
Hmm.
Like I don't want to give some numbers because I'm not sure about that, but like about all the money that Italian people take on their bank
Hmm.
account without
Yeah.
investing. If you find the right spot, the right angle, like to make sensibilization, education on that, uh, there is huge opportunity like to build really a business on that, and then you can also add all this integration. Because if I make a financial education, I can also maybe find a partnership, find a partner, sorry, like to like also
To propose investment
guide you through
account, for example.
investment.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a really good point. And I always thought that we are lacking a lot of financial education. That's not just us saying that, but there are specific statistics saying that we are very much behind in financial education. But overall, there's also a huge opportunity, and also taking in perspective, there is also a lot of resources under that point of view. So we have a lot of, for example, deposits that are on hold on bank accounts that are not invested. For example,
Yeah.
that is not a problem; it's a huge opportunity for people from one side and from financial institution from the other. So it's a really interesting argument under that perspective. Maybe one last question from my side. You are mentioning a lot of very interesting benefit and features, and one of the questions that I usually ask is about the kind of trends that you are mostly looking at in the fintech ecosystem, in the fintech market. Okay. I would like to change it a little bit, this one. I would like for you to tell us a couple of, trends in terms of benefit that are maybe not that common right now, or maybe not that common in all markets, that you expect to come in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years. Something that is maybe not for everyone today, but you expect to be there very, very soon.
Yeah, mm, I can give you my perspective also compared to what I see and what I also listen to all the time. I like also being with
Hmm.
clients because, of course, we're being B2B, we're really B2B
Yeah.
driven, but then we also hear from B2C. And they mentioned one, like for me, salary in
Mm.
advance, that can be also disentangled in different way. For example, there are some companies in the US that have tried to kind of find a spot, an angle of salary in advance through buy now pay
Hmm.
later. That for me, buy now pay later is a feature. It's so tough. Of course, if you're Klarna,
Yeah.
it's easier, but like it's so tough today to be like a just buy now pay later business. But one like trend that I see is this opportunity for like employees, for people to be financially sponsored, supported by their company um, throughout like
Hmm.
technology, so throughout fintech. And why that? Because I say before, like, and especially Italy. Italy is like very complex and fragmented
Hmm.
ecosystem, and there are some specific provision, especially in the labor market. For example,
Hmm.
TFR,
Yeah.
to give you an idea, where you can kind of you can build some businesses on this
Yeah.
specific framework. And for example, I think about salary in advance. Companies, especially after sometimes that the employees in the company can have already a
Hmm.
guarantee, on the fact that the employee that they have some money of the employee that is the TFR, if of course there is not the funds, but whatever. And so what I see as trends, I see that there are so many features like salary advance that can really enhance and make
Hmm.
education on specific matters. Because once you get the trust, then you can go really cross sell, bundling of services, etc. And then there is, of course, also a matter of for myself of kind of democratization. So today, like we see, for example, the amazing result that Revolut is kind of having in our market. Um, I think that the key is finding the way to have like a one-stop shop
Hmm.
solution, an holistic approach that can, of course, fit with the Italian framework. To give you an idea, like our head of product, like have a LinkedIn post. I don't know if you saw
Hmm.
it, but about the fact that Revolut cannot
Yeah.
like permit to pay on telepass, and so there are like for myself, the key is like finding a way, and there are some players, I mean, worldwide that are doing that to really answer to any kind of needs in terms of employee or like user perspective. And in the B2B market, I found the salary in advance something super attractive. I found like the way of starting from the education process and going live with like a real embedded
Hmm.
features, fintech features, of course, uh, the opportunity and maybe the solution. And then, of course, there is always a matter of finding like building a domestic business, even if you're not like fully domestic. That's like my like touch point on that.
And do you expect, for example, stock options to be one of those kind of benefits that can come in that direction? Because they are kind of, something that very, appropriate for this kind of ecosystem, but kind of tricky to handle from an employee's perspective.
Or I like have this theme every day. Like in Thunder, every employee in Thunder has a
Hmm.
stake in the company, of course, with a like employee stock option
Hmm.
plan. So with like all the also rules. It's something that we uh, believe in so much, but it's as you said, it's a little bit
Mm.
hard to like
Yeah.
communicate the potential upside of that. Um, I think that in that case, it's more a matter of kind of endogenous, like more institutional government like framework, so like regulatory framework more than technology, because it's more like related on that. Of course, if you think about, for example, some venture in Italy that work on the
Hmm.
communication between like the company and their employees, and in Italy or like worldwide, these can be a feature that add values. Because for example, let's try to imagine you're an employee and you can see, I don't know, the path of your stock value over time. Of course, it's a pure
Yeah.
benefit. I'm not sure today that is like what is the biggest opportunity for technological
Hmm.
disruption. I see, for example, more value on salary in advance or on allowing people to have bank accounts with no cost throughout their companies. But that's an aspect, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. Giorgio, it has been a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you very much for your insights. It was very, very interesting conversation. And yeah, thank you again for joining, and good luck for everything that you're doing with Thunder right now.
Yeah, thank you to me, Michele. Thank you so much. It was a super pleasure.
Nice. We need absolutely to catch up in Milan sooner or later.
Of course, of course, of course. So if when you are here, let's grab a coffee
Great.
together.
Thank you very much again. Have a nice one.